Hello everybody, welcome back to the real guide on how to make money fast with trading. So this is an honest guide of how you can make money fast with trading, because like I always state, a lot of people tell you these lies and get you to believe these things. Now here on this channel, I have no agenda. I don't want to sell you anything. All I ask is that you like and subscribe. This is completely unbiased information, so if it sounds great, please do like, and like I said, subscribe. That is all I ask. I make these videos for free, and there's going to be hundreds of them on the channel, so please watch all of them if you are interested in getting into trading. So what I'm going to do in this one is similar to what I did in the last one. I'm talking out loud over a PowerPoint. Now this time I've not written down so much. I basically wrote generic titles. I'm going to explain each one of those, because all of the reading in the last episode, I just feel like it came across a bit unauthentic and not really the way that I wanted it to. There was a lot of stuttering and misreading in that because I was trying to work to such a short time. But with this one, it's less visual but a lot more audio focused. So this one's going to be a lot more speaking but just a lot less visual aesthetics to look at. So just bear that one in mind. So first things first about trading is you need to have an adequate mindset. Now mindset is something that I always talk about on these forex trading videos, or generally on the videos, because mindset is it's basically everything, to be honest. Because if you are not in the right mindset, you are not going to be a good trader. So for example, there's many ways to think about mindset. So if you're already into trading, you've got the mindset of being positive or being negative. You've got the mindset of trading in revenge. So if your trades in the past haven't gone well, you might want to make that money back, and then you have a mindset focus on making that money back, which then causes you to go for riskier trades and lose. And obviously if you're losing more than you're earning, guess what? You're not making any money, and you are not going to get rich trading, and you're not even going to make anything above a loss trading. So mindset is a crucial thing. I'm not going to go too much into mindset because it's something I always talk about, and I want to make a video directly on mindset in the future, but I'm not going to talk too much about it in this one. But mindset is a very important point. Now these aren't ordered in lists of importantness or importance, so these are just ordered in random ways, and I hope you find that okay. So factors. So there are many factors to think of when you're trading. So you got to think of your actual lifestyle factors. So do you have enough time? Are you going to be able to do it? Are you going to pour too much money into it? So for example, when you're starting out, yes, maybe you should go with £100 to £500, and that's just what I would do personally. But that doesn't mean it's necessarily the way you have to go with, because you can always start out on a demo account if you can't afford it. But the factor is, you do need to be able to look into it and do your research on it, because if you can't research on trading, how are you ever going to become a good trader? It's like when you went to school or university and got a grade and an exam and a degree. You need to learn things. Now I'm not saying that you need to go and get a degree on something, but with this one you do need to learn. Even if that's doing 10 minutes a day at home, you need to factor in that that is something that you need to do a bit of research, do a bit of homework, learn what's going on in the market, and understand the factors of the market as well, which influence prices and stuff like that. So there we go, that is factors explained. And now this is a very crucial one, because when you look at the title, I mean, I'm pretty sure making quick money is what drove you here in the first place, but it's important not to be greedy. So what do I mean by being greedy? Because everyone wants to think, oh, I'm not greedy. I mean, I did this when I was a starter of a trading. So greed is just something which is unbelievably over the top. So for example, if I'm starting out with £100, am I going to make £500 by the end of the week? Probably not, it's very unlikely. And if I make £500 by the end of the week, am I going to make £1,000,000 by the end of the year? Well, I think I would be a record trader if I managed to do that, but I'm not saying it's impossible, because it probably has been done, but it's not very common. If we start out with a small amount, we want to learn to make a small percentage in the start. So for example, let's say that we're making 2% a day. So if we're making a 2% return on £100 on the first day, we're unfortunately only making £2. But if we're making a 2% return on £1,000, or on £10,000, or on £100,000, you can see the result would be £2,000 a day on a £100,000 account. So just factor in that if you need to mentally scale up the scale of what you're trading with. So like I said, if you're trading with £100 and you've only made £2, just say to yourself, oh, I'm trading with £100,000 and I've just made 2,000, because it basically does work like that. If you learn how to manage the risk and the factors and how much you should be making a day, then you won't go too greedy and you won't lose it all, because what can happen is you'll go with this trade which is way too risky and way too big in the hope of making a profit, because your greed has kicked in and you won't cancel it out in time, and you will end up losing a massive amount of money. Now, I'm not going to criticize anybody for this. It's something that I have done in the past. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's something that gets to us all the time. at different times, of course, but it does happen at times, and it's something that you really, really, really do need to look out for. Just count every single penny that you make as a blessing and as a profit as well, because fundamentally, as long as it's a profit, it's way better than a loss. Just think about it: if you're making £5 on a £100 account, that's more than what you're going to make in a bank in a year, and it's also basically a lot more than what a fundamental investor would make in the same period. So in a day, obviously £5 is a lot. Now, losses do occur as well, so bear that in mind, but basically greed is a massive factor to talk about. I could go in about it so much, but just remember factors like how much a bank would pay, how much an investor would get, and how much a trader would expect to make. So a trader sometimes looks to make about 1 to 2%, perhaps even less than that. Obviously, some traders will tell you a lot more than that, but that's just not realistic. So go for a small percentage and just count it as a winner. Yeah. So basically, if you get £5, just consider it as someone giving you a fiver in the middle of the town, and if you lose £5, consider it as someone taking or stealing £5 out of your pocket. So just think about it like that in your head, and you should basically be able to manage your greed a little bit better. So don't buy knowledge. So what do I mean by this? Now, this is basically what I talked about in the forex one last week or yesterday. Anyway, forex one is mainly the one, but all trading is subject to this as well. Don't buy your knowledge. So I'm saying buy books. Yes, buy books. If you're going to buy anything, buy books from Amazon or whatever, or a shop or something, but do not buy courses from people. If you buy courses from people, a lot of the time they are scams. Now, I'm not saying all the time, but a lot of the time they are scams. They're repackaged information which you can learn from the internet for absolutely free, and that is the main reason on why I'm making this channel, to show you guys what you can learn for free. So I'm going to put it all in one place on this channel. But yeah, if you're buying knowledge of somebody, bear in mind, let's consider it like a business startup loan. So if you've got £10,000 to start trading with, and you're paying somebody who doesn't even know about trading £2,000, now you've only got 8,000. So if you're making a 2% return in a day on 10,000, like I said, that's more than what you'd be making a 2% return with 8,000. So that's just an example, of course. But just bear that one in mind. If you're giving away your money for a course which is apparently going to make you rich, or the worst one of all, in my opinion, a signaling group, which is a monthly subscription, which is usually quite expensive, it is not worth going for that one, because they're very, very expensive, especially if it's a monthly subscription group. It's not worth it a lot of the time when you could just find this information on the internet for absolutely free. So I would not recommend buying your knowledge from anywhere other than in books and things like that. So books are mainly the one. On websites you can find a lot of stuff for free, so not really too much of a problem there. So moving on to our very next point, we have patience. Now, patience is a very important point to have when you are trading, because like I said, if you're starting off with a small account, let's say it's about 100 quid, and you're making £2 a day in the first few weeks, let's say £2 to £2.50 a day, that is not a lot of money, and you can imagine this is going to take time to scale. But 2%, it's like a compound interest graph, where it starts off at the bottom very, very small, but once it starts to pick up on that linear graph, it slowly starts to curl up and go for a massive spike towards the end. Now, of course, if you can invest more, it may be worth it, depending on what your situations and factors are, going back to the previous point. But yes, it can be worth going for more, but basically just understand that things are going to take time, and you're not going to buy some stock most of the time and wake up rich, because if you do that, like I said, you're going for a high greed risk to reward ratio. So obviously that means that you're risking a lot for a potentially huge reward, but it just might not be worth it, because obviously if you're making that money, then that's great, but chances are you could obviously lose that as well, and losing all of that money may not be worth it. So don't be greedy, and be patient, and expect things to happen in a matter of time, because that is what's going to happen. Because time is a big factor with these kinds of things. Time for learning your information and time for trading. So learning is quite key, because obviously you can imagine you need to know what you're doing first. So that ties in with this point actually, which is educate yourself. Now, like I said, don't buy your education unless it's through books and things like that, but educate yourself. Now, maybe not even trade whilst you're educating yourself, because sometimes you need to know the basics. Now, this is something that I didn't do. I went straight in with £10, let's say only £10, but still, and I just thought, oh, well, I can press this for 10 seconds and make a nice little profit and whatnot, and now I've made it a little bit, so that is great, but is short-lived because I didn't know anything about the buttons I was pressing or what I was doing. So education is key to this one. So it's important to learn your stuff before you go in with it, because it's going to cost you a lot more in the long run if you don't. Consider it like an education in a university where you have to perhaps go for consider it becoming a doctor, for example. If you're going for it to become a doctor, it takes about 7 to 15 years to qualify. But once you do qualify, you'll be on about £150,000 a year, generally, or less. But obviously, you can imagine a doctor in the long run is going to make more than a McDonald's worker, for example. So basically, just consider the amount of time it's going to take to educate yourself in return for the rewards that you're going to get for that. So like I said, education, key factor. So make sure you look into that, and perhaps take your time to learn before you just jump in and lose it all. So education, education, education. Can't stress that one enough. Major point to go for. So like I said earlier, appreciate your small wins. 1 to 2% is good, 10% is amazing, 20% is what an investor tries to make in a year. So if you're making 20% in one day, obviously it's a phenomenal day. But if you've made 20% in one day, be happy with it and just be done with it, because that's a massive percentage. Now, I'm not telling you where to set your stop losses and take profits, because stop losses and take profit was something that I covered in a very previous video recently. So stop loss and take profit was in a video, but yes, appreciate your small wins, know when to call it a day, and know when a good percentage has been made. So like I said, for a baseline, 1 to 2%, great, and anything above 10%, fantastic for one day, of course. So just bear that one in mind. Appreciate it and understand the percentages that you should be going for over a short period of time, and appreciate them small wins, because small wins accumulate to one big win. And just remember, even if it's only a small profit, it beats having a loss, because losing money is not going to get you anywhere, whereas making it is obviously what you aim to do. So that ties in again with our next one, which is setting realistic goals for your close future. Now, we can all dream to the distant future now that I've told you about how long it's going to take, or the time on information that you're going to need, but we need to look realistically into the future. Now, this is not necessarily always a financial goal. So if you're not very knowledgeable in trading, you could be looking at other types of goals, like I'm going to know about so-and-so in this period of time. And a good way to learn that is, of course, by checking out this channel, but that's all I'm saying. If you want to subscribe, please do. But yes, no, getting back to it, it's very important to set realistic goals, because if you don't set realistic goals in the future, it's easy to lose your motivation and want to give up with it, because it can take time, and it will take time, to be honest. But it's one thing to look at the grand picture. It's like climbing a flight of stairs, for example. We can easily go to the top of the stairs and look down and see the amount of stairs that we've climbed up and how high we are from the top of the stairs, but it's the individual stairs that got us to that top point. So just consider it like that, and consider the amount of stress and pressure perhaps, and also information that you will need to get there, and the realistic goals which you will need to set. So make sure to set yourself steps on the ladder and get up there eventually, slowly following these steps, because otherwise, like I said, lack of motivation, lack of willpower, and lack of guidance and direction, because these are all fundamental factors that you will need when you're jumping in, because obviously information and everything is important for this business. It's just like any other business, really. It's not really some get rich quick scheme. So that's one thing to consider with it. Anyway, so there we go. Treat your losses like your outgoings. So again, a lot of people consider this as one of these things where if you're great at it, or if you're good at it, you're never ever ever going to lose. Whereas in the realistic times, in a matter of fact, for example, things are going to lose. Losses are going to happen at certain points and certain times, and there's nothing that anybody can do to prevent them. Now, this is like a form of educated gambling, of course, so obviously you are going to lose sometimes, not all the time, but just bear in mind, if your wins are greater than your losses, then you're successful anyway. So when you do get a loss, which should not be too often if you're great at it, but obviously they will occur at some points, make sure to treat it like an outgoing to any other business. Every single business that you can think of, a cafe, for example, a shop, they've got bills to pay, electric, lights, utilities, etc. And when you lose, just consider it like one of those bills coming out of your account, and then you'll be able to accept it a little bit more easily, because when you treat your losses like your outgoings, you should be a little bit more happy and easy to accept them, because, you know, it's just another part of the business. It's just a bill that you have to pay from time to time. At least it's not a bill that you have to pay every single day. It's just a bill that pops up sometimes where you have to take a loss, and it all comes out of your profits. But like I said, if your profits are greater than your losses, you should be able to cover that anyway. So if you are making a profit, then great, and that is what you aim to do, but just aim to make some losses as well, and just understand that it's going to happen. Like I said, if your losses in price aren't as big as your profits, then you should be fine to make a profit on the end of the year anyway. So good luck with that one. So moving on, we have be aware. So many things to be aware of on this one. We've got to be aware of prices, we've got to be aware of information, and we've got to be in the correct mood as well. So like I said, a very important thing, mindset and mood are for this one. Mood is very important because when you're looking at graphs on a short period of time, it's important to interpret them correctly and read them right. So it's important to be awake and aware. Now, this is one of the things where in a certain point in the business, you'll be at such a high profit or such a high value account, you'll be able to just take a day off if it's not going to work for you, because obviously with this one, it's not just like a normal job. You can lose money on this one very, very easily. So if you go in with on a day when you're just not feeling it and you're willing to make a loss because you're not in the right mood, it should not be the day for you, and you should just call it a day and not go for it. So be aware in your mood. And of course, be aware of what's going on in the charts, pay attention to them, pay attention to everything on the screen that you need to pay attention to, basically, to not make a loss and to interpret everything correctly. And also pay attention to what you are investing in and the news. The news is a very influential one for stocks, which people don't often talk about, and also for forex as well, and also for indexes as well. Obviously, like I said, just not oftenly talked about on a lot of channels, on Instagram pages and whatnot, but the news can influence things a lot. Important to note that one as well, because the news can have quite a nice, or even bad sometimes, effect on the prices. So there we go, another point is don't compare yourself to others. Now in this market, it's very, very, very easy to do that with the Instagram lifestyle, which is being sold, if you will. So there's an Instagram lifestyle, people with Teslas or Lamborghinis and Ferraris and whatnot, houses that you want, things like that, and it's easy to compare yourself to those people. Whereas a lot of the time, these people are scams. I mean, a lot of the time they're not as well. A lot of these people are realistic, but bear in mind, they started off from somewhere too, and they didn't do it overnight. And a lot of the ones that say that they did perhaps might be telling a doctored story. So bear in mind, it's going to take time, and don't compare yourself to anybody else, because you are on your own unique path. Perhaps you might overtake them one day, but it's important to realize these things will take time for you, and you need to not compare yourself to anybody else in the market, because a lot of things are sold out there. But in any single job, you can't compare yourself to anybody else, because you are on your own path with this one. So make sure definitely not to compare yourself to anybody else. One of the most toxic things for the market that you can do here, because obviously you're not going to be helping yourself out by putting yourself in that space and perhaps that negative mindset, because you will think that someone's doing better than you. Whereas in the case you're doing the same, but you're just doing so with the same percentage on a lower amount of money or something like that. And even if you're not doing the same, you will have your time someday. So please do not compare yourself to anybody else, because you'll end up just feeling bad and wishing that you had that lifestyle, leading you to make riskier choices and decisions in your trading. And again, usually not worth that one. So just make sure you're in the right mindset and don't compare yourself to anybody ever, because otherwise you will get misled and it won't be worth it. So learn the game inside and out. So obviously, like I said, information is a key one for this game, because it's very, very intense as well. So information is something that you will need to know. You'll need to know what affects prices, what markets are you trading. You should know about a few markets as well. So if you're trading forex, you should know everything about that market. If you're trading indexes, you should know everything about those. And even then, shop around, because like I said, if you know everything about all the markets, or even a little bit about all the markets, you can see, okay, I like the sound of this one, and then you can go more specialist into that one. So basically, make sure you have your information on point and intact, so you can choose your market and go with it. Because basically, once you learn the game inside out, you'll understand what affects things, why the prices change and stuff like that, and this will obviously lead you to make better decisions and be ahead of the general percentage of commercial traders, which will again put you at a profit, which is what you aim to do here. So learning is everything. Like I said, don't pay for a paid course, because a lot of the time information can be learned for free, but do make sure to put in a small amount of time a day or a week or whenever you can, even just to learning, because learning is a fundamental part of this game. Fundamentals are a fundamental part of this game, ironically. So yeah, please do take the time to educate yourself adequately and learn everything that you will need to know for jumping into this market, because it's not an easy one. It's not as easy as people like to make it out to sound, but yeah, it can be learnt if you do want to. So make sure to spend the time doing your education before you start trading and learn the game inside out. So you can do this with a demo account if you don't have funds to waste and lose. But yes, make sure to do learn the game properly. I can't stress this one enough. That's why I keep repeating it. So there we go. So don't overload. So when I talk about this one, there are many ways that I can word this. Don't overload in price. Obviously, don't dump too much money into it, because only spend what you can lose. Consider it as spending it and not investing it. I mean, if you're investing fundamentally, then yes, but if you're investing analytically, consider it as spending. Don't overload. Don't overload yourself mentally, and don't overload yourself on price. So obviously, don't put too much money into it. Just said that. And mentally, it's very easy to do this one as well. It's easy to look at other people, like I've said. That's why you shouldn't compare yourself. And it's also easy to put too much effort into it and not know whether to do it as a hobby or as to do it as a job. But just bear in mind, if you're an adult working in a job, you've got no pressure and it can be learned over time. There's absolutely no rush. And if worse comes to worse, you can always go back to a demo account and learn from there. So that's why I would say don't overload. Make sure not to go too hard onto it and just take it casually at the start, because of course there's no need to rush it. So here we go, don't fall into the hype category. So the hype category, pretty self-explanatory, like I said earlier. Lamborghinis, Teslas, mansions, things like that on Instagram and even YouTube nowadays. So don't fall into the hype category and be sold this lifestyle and then look into it and not do any research and basically lose all your money straight away and be like, oh, this is a terrible scam and I'm done with it. So make sure to learn and don't fall into that hype category, because people like to talk about statistics a lot and how 99% of businesses fail and whatnot. But think about it realistically. You can be in the 1% if you don't fall into the other percentages, obviously. So you've got to think of what separates you from the other percentages. Well, mindset is a big thing, like I said. Obviously, attitude is a big thing, and the factors that got you into this thing is a huge thing as well. So like I'm talking about, one of the factors should not be that you've seen people on Instagram, and if it is, you should have done your research after that and seen how legitimate these people are and how commonly this happens, because a lot of the time it's not so easy, but it is possible, however. So make sure to do your research so that you don't fall into this hype category when you get a hard reality hit, that it's not as easy as people like to sell it as. So make sure to not get that hit of reality and find it out for yourself, and don't fall into the hype category, believe something that's not true and then get swept away with it. So there we go. And here we go. Similar to that one, once you are in the hype category, or even if you're not, if you've lost a lot of funds and whatnot, don't give up hope, because if you give up hope, there is no chance whatsoever, because if you are not in the game, how are you going to make anything in the game? So there we go. If you give up hope, you are not going to have any chance whatsoever of playing the game anymore. So yeah, don't overload yourself, because that will also cause you to give up hope. But yes, it's very easy to do that. However, it's important not to. So it's hard to talk about, because once again, motivation is a big thing, mindset is a big thing, and also your results are a big thing. But just remember, in the first few years, you're probably going to lose more than you're going to gain. But it's kind of like an internship at a college, like I said earlier, or a university. You're probably going to not get too much for the first few years, and then you're going to benefit massively in the later years. So bear that one in mind and know the game and know what's going to happen with the game, because if you don't know what's going to happen, and if you can't see the linear path, you'll fall off and you'll basically give up. So once you give up, you've got no chance. So at least give yourself some chance and stay on. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this very, very long one. I hope you watched all the way to the end, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe. Anyway, tomorrow should be Wall Street bets, or the next day, or even the previous day, and I hope you enjoyed this one. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.